Hello and welcome back. Here we are, Crossroads of Cognizance, our first live night. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Dahlia, I'm so excited to be here with you. I can't even tell you. I've just been giddy about this the whole day.
Right?
Absolutely on fire for it. Yeah.
Looking forward to it all Monday long. I am giddy to be here with you too.
Yeah.
So,
Exciting, exciting, exciting. So, for those of you who don't know, we usually talk for about an hour. Sometimes we only keep you plugged in for an hour and then spare you the rest and continue talking after the broadcast ends because we know you have lives and you have things to do.
right, right.
But
So,
we'll be here an hour every week to share what's happening in the metaphysical stores, East and West. How does hers mirror mine as far as the themes we're seeing, the um, issues that are coming up, what's challenging, what's exciting, what's new and upcoming, and I think it's going to be a great discussion.
absolutely. And remember, you guys, like and subscribe. Hit us up on the Facebook page or on the website. Send us whatever you all want to hear about as well. It's not just about what's going on in our shops and our general conversation that you're getting a peek in on, but we want to hear from you too, because again, we're a family. So make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so that you know when we're on. But we will be here every week, Monday at 5 if you're on the West Coast and 8 if you're on the East Coast.
That's right. And so, yeah, it's not about just what's going on with us. What's going on with you? What are you experiencing? What's happening in your life? What energetic flows are you picking up on? How many cats do you currently have trying to photo bomb the broadcast?
Oh man. Yeah, mine wouldn't be cats. They would be a bird or a dog, but we'll hope for the best.
I'm at the shop right now. Normally, when I broadcast, I'm going to be at home, and because Monday's my day off.
Hmm.
But my husband is flying today, and I have to go to Sacramento to pick him up. And that's about maybe an hour from here. So I thought, let's just not even come close to cutting this more than we want. So today I'm in the shop and very happy to be here. It's very strange to be here uh, without customers and without the lights on. Dahlia, does your shop feel different when nobody's there or when it's dark? Or is there a time when the character of your shop changes?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that every place has a spirit and a presence. And so coming in first thing in the morning, it's greetings to everybody and everything. And I would say that that period of time is the most it's almost like I want to use the words like it's pine sol fresh, right?
Yeah.
And then once I start getting things going, turning on lights. Now we have overhead plug-in lights instead of the fluorescents because I despise them. And so the plug-in lights go on, the music comes on. We all kind of have our, and I say we all, like me and all the crystals, we have our routine. But that's the most percolative time of day, if that is a word, is the morning. And then as folks start coming in, we've had the benefit of appointment scheduling for our openings. So there's an intentionality where before, like pre-COVID, it was like, wow, who's going to show up today? The intention can really be felt as the door is unlocked. I feel like every time I put the key in the door, it's like unlocking a different intention for the day. So morning is the best. In the evening, things get softer, and it almost feels like time stops. So yeah, it is weird when nobody's there
It
for
is.
sure.
Our store is actually very haunted.
Oh, very
And it
cool.
is, it is. And you always kind of have the feeling as a proprietor, that you're here by permission, that you were allowed to be here. And it's Gladys even has agreed that there's some kind of portal, especially in the back classroom, that just really keeps things very active. And they love the dark. When anytime the sun starts to go down, they get super active. So if I'm here by myself, I'll hear people running on the deck when nobody is there. You can hear cocktail parties happening. It's really strange. It's a very
Yes.
strange situation. But I like what you said about when you first walk in. To me, that's a very sacred moment. You're starting your sacred part of the day. Not that our whole day is not sacred, but
Sure.
sacred service, I guess I would say, is what
Absolutely.
you're agreeing to. And we're in that place where you were pre-COVID, where, oh, gee, what's gonna walk in the door today? So I have a lot of brick dust on my doors.
Well, and we're sort of bracing ourselves for the expanded openings too. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the excitement, the thrill of what could happen is always interesting, but I am kind of liking the knowing what's coming. So we'll see what happens.
That would be really intoxicating for me because I'm a Virgo. I don't enjoy the excitement of change and shifting and whose energy is going to be here next. Eric is a Scorpio and he utterly gets off on that not knowing, that mixed bag of what's coming up. So obviously the correct choice was he's on the sales floor, he's on the front desk. I'm crazy witch back in the den in some kind of cave where I do all of my work, and I come out like a groundhog in February, just kicking and screaming and, cursing the world that makes me come out into the sales floor and be exposed. And I
Right.
grimace at the light like Nosferatu. I try to be a people person. And especially as I've gotten older, I've just had to admit that general public and peopling is not my, um, I can do it, but I
Yeah.
do not love it.
Yeah. Well, and it's a mixed bag, right? Like when you are presented with that, um the genuineness of someone seeking change and healing in their lives, that is, I mean, doors wide open, right?
Right.
And then you sort of have the incidentals, like the performatives, or the I don't know what this is, so, I don't know what level of respect to give it approach that
Mhm.
some folks will have. And it's like, well, come in and be yourself. That's really like the greatest offering. And then that allows, I think, us the space to be ourselves versus protection versus, other hats that have to be worn in different circumstances.
That authenticity is so important. And you often get people coming into shops like ours that have been ridiculed for what they're experiencing or disbelieved.
Yeah.
And so they come in almost apologetically,
Hmm.
and they always are so certain they're the first ones to ever tell us this. And so they're wide-eyed and they've got this little baby kitten look on their face. And it's fine as long as I don't have a line forming behind them to check out.
Right.
And so I'll get the people that come in and they're like, you aren't going to believe this, but when I was about 12, I had this dream that I saw a shaman, and the shaman told me I was very special and I had very special abilities. And then 2 years later, I met this lady, and meanwhile, people are stacking up behind them. Like,
Right. Right.
you're precious. What about that candle?
Well, and so, you know it's so interesting what you said about, they swear they're the first person.
Mhm.
I know I tend to get like a lot of apologies for certain words being used, as if like, I've never heard it before, what have you. So they'll apologize for the word weird.
Mhm.
They'll apologize for calling the crystals rocks or stones. And I'm like, listen, I can feel the respect you're trying to give in this moment. But if I was somebody who was so concerned with proper terminology, you wouldn't be here anyway, because you wouldn't feel good to be in this space. It would be a different
Yeah.
kind of shop.
You kind of
So,
want to get them to just ratchet it down just a little bit. Just,
right, right. Have
I've got
fun.
you at an 11. I need you at about a 6.
Right, right, right.
Keep a
Yeah.
pulse, be engaged, but damn.
Well, and in the appointment sense at Crystal Cognizance, 45 minutes is enough for that ratchet down to happen,
Sure.
you know. And I'm like, what did we do before? I mean, I feel like with the appointment schedules, I feel like I've unlocked the mystery of Google. Like everybody's saying, what did we do before Google? I'm like, what did I do before shopping appointments? Like, it was wild. And as somebody who's love language, primary at least, and I know some people don't like that, but for understanding me, my love language is quality time.
Hmm.
And so now we have this intention based, these intention based interactions that have just been so freeing. And I think have allowed a gentle segue back into interacting with the public where everybody's been gone for a year and some
Hmm.
change.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Like I said, we're just barn door open. We never know whether we're going to have 50 people come in that day or three, or what's going to happen. Was it even worth our time to drive off the mountain? And I do my thing. Most of my clients are online, but I also have in-person clients. So I kind of have an idea who's coming in. And a lot of times what'll happen, and your appointment time really takes care of this, is you have people that come in. Oh, do you do readings? Oh, can you do one now?
yeah.
Oh, you do cleansings? Can you do one now? Well, why can't you do
Uh,
one now? And I have to slide into that. I have to be a little prepared to get all up in somebody's energy. I don't like to just, sure, let's come do it right now. Come on, let's do it now, now, now. This, ah,
Yeah, instant gratification society has not done us any favors in the healing industry, or in the magical industry when, instantaneous does not equate to better. In fact, it equates to worse.
mm,
If I can snap, snap, snap right into your energy, at one, I was already in there. Two, I'm probably exhausted. And three, like walking around lights on all the time would be just nuts. And to your comment of maybe my appointments had taken care of that, they absolutely have not.
oh, let me dream, please.
No, ma'am. It is
Oh,
coming for one thing. And oh, by the way, since I'm here, and it's like, whoa, okay.
oh, wow, yeah,
Absolutely love that you want to work with me. It's an honor. However, one, I probably have an appointment after you, or some form of administrative plans, and zipping on just like you. It's not putting on a suit. And
yeah,
so no, I have to tread that very carefully, uh, so as not to have them feel rejected, but in the same
right.
sentence honor that boundary of preparation and explaining to people, I'm going to sit down and meditate for you when it's our dedicated time, you know.
You're absolutely right about that. And they don't, I, I don't know. I've had this, here's my theme for the week. My theme for the week has been my lesson and my boundaries,
Oh yeah.
which of course, our first episode, it's going to be just all about me here, I guess. But I've had to really consider my boundaries lately because people don't treat us the way they would treat other professionals. And that's challenging because, for instance, I had one lady, a very dear lady, I really enjoyed working with her, but she really wanted an appointment, badly wanted an appointment. I had a very full schedule. So I'm trying to squeeze her into a little spot, and she works late. So she couldn't get here until, 2 hours before we close, and I'm already booked. And so I'm trying to put her in this little space. And so we booked the appointment. She says, so it'll be me, my husband, and my daughter. And we all need cleansing. It's like, um, all right, then that's what we're going to do. And I didn't set the boundary, and it did work out. But I was admittedly apprehensive about, the lack of realization that, hey, an appointment is for what I'm going to do with one person.
Right.
And yeah, so that was tough. And then I had another lady that reached out to me with it was the classic email of, I've been cursed since I was born, and this is going on. I've had this terrible bad luck. I'm having trouble with these relationships. It's a very long email, which is great. I
Yeah.
love being informed. Give me as
Yes.
much information. Let me know. I always think of it as like when a cop frisks you and they're like, are there any needles in your pocket that are going to stick me?
Right. Right.
Because I want to know, what's happening in there. And sure, it did really look like she had a lot going on. And so as I'm reading this, I'm tallying up, and I'm sure you do this too. We're going to have root chakra issues. We're going to have probably an entity in there, probably this going on, probably that going on. And so we're going through this whole process, and she needs a cleansing, and okay, we'll do that. And it's a remote, that's fine, no problem. I do that all the time. And then she sends me this other letter where she's concerned about me being able to protect myself and protect her during the process. And I thought, okay, well, you messaged me.
Right. Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
wondered, would you go to your doctor and ask, how do you keep from getting sick when you treat all these people? Or would you ask your surgeon, how do you keep from cutting yourself? Or your plumber, you know, how do you know how to do all of these pipes? And I try not to have it be an ego thing of feeling insulted, but it's kind of like, now I've got to spend time justifying what I do.
Right. How many years you've been doing it and all
Hmm.
of that, and
How
boundaries
few people died.
including you. Boundaries is such a sticky subject because in our society you're selfish for having them automatically,
Oh, isn't that
and
so true?
trying to be delicate about the whole process. I find myself in this constant, a Virgo through and through, same as you. I'm like, okay, what can I do? What process can I put in place so that people know, exactly what they're getting into, what to expect? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to change the web page. I'm gonna add this
I did that
to this.
again.
I'm gonna make a video. And it's like I add things to the web page folks don't read. I do the video, it's too much. I can't watch it at work, or you know, oh, I'm gonna make separate services. Well, you have so many services, I don't know what to choose. And it's like, well, okay. Or, I booked this, but I didn't read it. Can I change it? And I'm like, all right. So, the boundaries thing is like trying to put as much information out there to protect your time, right? But there will still be the mishaps, and then I can definitely empathize with the protection. How do you protect yourself piece? But I usually get that once, like 2 minutes before the session,
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah.
like the or most better yet after the session. They were thinking for the hour that we were together, where there's crystals, there's chanting, all these things are happening, and they're thinking to themselves, God, I must be really filthy. My energy must be so terrible. How is she? I hope she's protected during this. Maybe I should hold it all in so that. And I'm like, dude, let it
Yeah.
go, let it out. And I find myself saying that quite a bit. Your surgeon washes their hands before and after their session for a reason. Like we glove up and do the same thing. It
Right.
just looks a little different. Um,
That anxiety you're describing too is one of the biggest inhibitors to us getting in there and doing the work that we need to do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so now you're prying through that. I have to give Gladys a shout out. For my clients that I get a lot of clients that are straddling the religious spiritual fence. And so they come in with this anxiety, not that I will put something on them or do something to them, but they're like, am I going to piss God off by being here?
Hmm.
Right. And I'm like, listen, no, the answer is no. You will not be smoked after you walk out of my door. But to shout Gladys Gordillo out, she makes an anti-anxiety spray that has just been life-changing. Yep, right over them, right at the beginning of the session. I just used it 2 days ago on somebody who was like, I laid down on your bed and I was very anxious, but then suddenly it went away, and I was like, that's because I sprayed you. We both had a good laugh about it, and she was like, all right. I said, it
That
happens.
is such good stuff. And I had a meditation class yesterday, and so we were getting ready to sit down and get into it. And
Mhm.
it's a really remedial meditation class. It's
Okay.
a no excuses meditation class because we've got pillows and we've got blankets and it's dark and the air conditioner's cranked up, and I mean my voice is amplified. So
Yeah.
you have to immerse in the experience. And you could just tell everybody was shifting like kindergartners. So I went and got Gladys's Florida water and just walked and sprayed the just the area a little bit. And then one of the ladies seemed a little bit anxious, and I said, "Do you want some of this?" And she said, "Yeah." So she took a bath in it. And somebody else said, "Well, can I get some?" And I said, "Y'all just, I don't know, puff puff pass, just go." And so everybody's all Florida watered up with Gladys's stuff. And Gladys happened to be working the register. I think she sold like 4 or 5 bottles of Florida water.
Yeah, I keep rebuying her stuff because I either end up giving it away or somebody buys my bottle and I'm like, well, I'm not going without.
Yep. You got it. It's really wonderful stuff. And I just found it instantly grounding, and I use it with my clients quite a bit. And
Yeah.
people do come in worked up. They do come in not ready for a fight with me, but with the world. They're
And
just,
they're demons.
yeah. So by the time they come to us, they have about hit as far down as they can go.
Yep.
So we have to be ready for that, the confrontation and what comes next.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's, again, it's incredible to me just the stance that they take on their own energy. They're
And
like, I must be your worst client. And I'm
yes,
like, nope.
no. I bet you've never heard
Okay.
this, child. That was my Tuesday. Okay. I hear this all the time. And you know, the other thing is they're in such a difficult situation. They imagine nobody else can be in that situation. It's like a woman in labor who
Yep.
knows that her pain is a little bit more than any other woman who ever gave birth before.
Yep. I mean, and it's hard to justify that, right? Like,
Yep.
but in the same sentence, cut yourself some slack, I mean,
Yeah.
if you are upright, you're doing better than most.
And
So,
when you tell them, actually, this is pretty easy, we can fix this. Some of them are relieved and some of them are offended.
yeah.
If you say this, we can fix this, don't worry, then suddenly they think you're not taking them seriously and you just don't get how bad it is.
Yep.
So it's this fine line to walk to make them still feel, ooh, yes, we really need to work on this.
Yes.
Versus I could do this in my sleep because you're number 7 today.
Right. And it's interesting how they all kind of cluster together that way.
Mhm.
And so your theme was boundaries. My theme was basically coaching people on the fact that personal awareness will get you so much further than trying to sit down and meditate with the crystals, or, attending the ceremony, or getting the initiation, or, whatever it is. Those are great goals to have. But if you do not know yourself, you are doing yourself a disservice, and you will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on program after program to come away with, I still don't know what to do next. And so that was my
Yep.
theme with everybody this week. It was like, hey guys, guess what? Step 1 is easy. Who are you? And then they're like, wait a minute, no, that's not hard enough. And it's like, all right, well, gluttons for punishment out there. But when you're ready to sit down and figure that out, I'm here.
Well, and that's and another theme here at the shop too is people looking for external solutions to internal problems.
Mm-hmm.
And even with the spell work I do for people, I would say probably, oh gosh, 99 people out of 100 want to work. They want to do the spell work on somebody else rather than on themselves. They don't want to do work to Abre Camino work to open the roads and clear the obstacles. They don't want to do all-seeing eye to see what they need to see. They want to fix that other person. And so the self-awareness of any accountability is pretty much gone.
Yeah.
And then you get the people that, like you were saying, are so fixated on external tools, which I love. Give me all the tools.
Right. Crystals
but
all
they
day.
put the exclusive power there rather than doing any of that inside homework. And it doesn't matter what ascended master you follow or how deeply you get into that program. You're right. That first step will always be know thyself.
Yep. And even in those programs, right? Reiki level 1 is self-healing.
Right.
And people want to breeze right past level
Boy,
1.
don't they?
I had somebody call me once and they were just like, yeah, I'm ready for my attunements. I said, oh, okay. So you've gone through the class? No. And I was like, well, wait a minute. There's like a 5-hour course here that has to take place beforehand.
I'd like my PhD now, please. Can I just get the diploma?
Right. YouTube University taught me everything I need to know.
That's right. Well, and that goes back to when I was more active in the pagan community in Sacramento. You had all of these people who wanted to be treated as elders when
Mm.
they've been in the craft for 2 or 3 years, or they want that instant gratification. They want to immediately be recognized, as though being in a religious tradition for 2 or 3 years is a really big deal and needs to be honored. It almost feels like the whole participation ribbon thing of everybody needs to be a high priestess,
Yeah,
right away. It's like,
absolutely.
no, calm down.
Well, and again, that goes back to the knowing, the awareness of self, because what they're really trying to do, right, is find their identity. The moment that you can
Yeah,
say, I am this, it feels like everything else falls away. And, you know, that can be said without the courses, without the tools, without the class. In fact, it probably should be said before you get into those, not as a preventative measure, but, you know, it's a way for you to basically maneuver through everything that could come up. Bad mentors, um, tools that are not for you in particular. That there are great tools, but they're not for, they don't, your wiring is different in a way
right.
that you need something different. It, once you know that you're more of a visual person, you're not going to sit there and try to feel your way through something. You're going to try to visualize, and it really does the work for you. So it's been an interesting week. It is not the answer that folks want to hear. It's a little
Hmm.
too simple. And in my Virgo-ness, I've been trying to organize like a, okay, what program do I need to type up that people can do their homework. And I just don't think that there's something that fully encompasses that, because it's a lifelong exploration. I mean, reinvention
Hmm.
happens for women, I think, at the point where the DSM-5 starts to talk about us having schizophrenia at different stages of
Right,
life.
right. Absolutely. No, I completely, there's a reason why um, our Latin roots are so based in madness, like hystero, and and the fact that when they originally invented vibrators, it was for women who were,
I just saw that movie. It's called Hysteria.
yeah,
Oh my God, it was wild.
yeah. So yeah, we do what we do. But it's funny. I was Christian Northrup, who's one of my favorite doctors in the world, actually said that when a woman is going through menopause, she begins to speak her truths. And I think
Mm.
this is one of those times, like pregnancy and like puberty and different points in our lives, when we reach a hormonal place and an empowerment place where we won't be contained. We're not manageable anymore,
Mhm.
and we need to say our truths. And that's probably when we start to be labeled schizophrenic.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had this conversation in the shop, um, that spiritual awakenings are not the one-time deal that everybody
Mm-mm.
portends. It's, you YouTube anybody and they're like, oh yeah, I had the spiritual awakening when, blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, well, hold on to your hat, because the minute that you get settled after that, here comes the next one. That kundalini
Mm-hmm.
doesn't just rise one time. You're going to go through multiple circumstances and embrace that. And I love what you said about the hormones, because it allows space for us to have our own individual journey. you
It
know the,
does.
the women in my family tend to go through menopause really early, and I have to start asking myself questions like, okay, based on the awareness that you've brought here today, is this to say that we have generations of women where that containment has been so much so that we just kind of break out of the
Hmm.
cage much earlier, instead of it being the celebration of woohoo, no more bleeding, I'm looking
Hmm.
forward to that. And, it's okay, wait a minute, this is a sacred transformational moment. For
Hmm.
women that have thyroid issues, that's a transformational moment. For all the stages of difference where you're like uncomfortable, where is that rooted along with the medical side? So
it's all that three-legged stool of mind, body, spirit. And if one leg is compromised, that whole stool is going to be off kilter.
absolutely.
And what happens with Western medicine, unfortunately, is they just start sawing on every leg of the stool. So it's never again anywhere close to stable.
Yeah, absolutely.
You were talking before about the labels that we use and
Oh,
the
yeah.
ways that we define ourselves. And I have seen that as a theme for me as well. When I write a book, I can't start writing the book until I see the cover.
Okay.
I have to have the cover design in front of me to know what's the feel of this book, what's the theme of this book. And throughout my life, there were times that if I lost one of my labels, I felt completely just in total disarray.
Mm.
So my second husband, not Eric, Eric's my third husband. My second husband was also my first husband. We got married twice. But ultimately, with the second marriage, he left me for somebody else.
Mm.
And so, very, very suddenly, out of the blue, I was not a wife. And it was so stunning to me to not be able to identify as a wife. Because even though we had been married before, basically what I did was wait for him to come back. So I still felt like a wife. But when that happened, I very quickly knew this isn't going to continue. I'm
Mhm.
not going to be married anymore. I've been married since I was 16. And it was really hard for me to transition into the idea of this is not what I am anymore, which brings to the point the question, then what are you?
Yeah.
And I think anytime we lose one of our labels, even employment, am I a teacher still? Am I a therapist still? Whatever you happen to do, when that by choice or otherwise goes away, it doesn't seem to matter if you give it away willingly or it's taken from you. When that label goes away, man, you feel that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's
you and I have been kind of struggling
Mhm.
with what our labels are going to look like.
Absolutely. I can't tell you how much of a friend thesaurus.com has been. you know, I am a wordophile. I love words, and I love words because of the energy that they can convey, the accuracy, right? But the English language gets shorter and shorter as the years go on. And
Yes.
so it just like even if I said, I'm a mom, that now has so many different contexts. And
Mm-hmm.
so it comes with those contexts come with a lot of assumptions that I'm just like, hey, I'm not that kind of mom. you
Yeah,
know
yeah.
and to your point, when kids sort of when moms get into that empty nesting space, they have that same disconnect. And so yeah, the whole labels thing it's a trip. And I think it goes right back to what we were saying about this industry. I was having the conversation the other day that unlike therapists, doctors, otherwise employed professionals, we don't have a governing body. We have no
No.
standards. And so, on the one hand, the freedom is beautiful to create a healing platform that really serves others, but it also means getting filed in with people that see this as a business. And straddling that line of like, that's another point where we have to kind of define and communicate, hey, one, this isn't insta magic or or insta healing. This isn't a pretty picture. And you know I don't know about your practice, but mine, I have a lot of people that will initially come to me for this, like, I want to feel betterness.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, so here's the deal. You know, if you haven't worked through your problems, you're not going to feel better first. In fact, I'm going to recommend some what I call cave time, where you shut everybody out and withdraw inward for that inner work. And I can't tell you how many people, they don't take that seriously. They
Oh,
get
they
off
don't
the
want to hear
table.
that.
They get off the table. They're like, I feel great. I could lift a bus. And I'm like, don't lift that bus. And then they go and they lift that bus for their friend. And I'm like, I told you not to lift that bus. And it's like, you know, now all the feelings are coming forward. Now you can't stop crying. But trust me, letting it all out will make that better. And then to find a label for me that says this is this is
Yeah,
what you can expect. It's not sunshine and rainbows, but I promise you the work will make you feel better.
we'll find it. And it is such a fine line because we both do retail
Hmm.
and we both do counseling. And those are just diametrically opposed situations because you get people coming in thinking you're basically just, you should be wearing a red vest at Target with what you do. And then you get people coming in that are really almost put off by the fact that there's retail and get into the, well, you should be doing what you're doing for free because you're
Yep.
a healer and you should give it to the world, and they know exactly how you should be a healer. And it's just, we can't please everybody, but that ability to authentically represent what we do is so elusive. And we will find, we're both just in love with words, and we will find the right thing to put together.
Absolutely.
I think the word supreme might be involved with it.
Well, yeah, and that like we were discussing before, the energy of words. It's like, trying not to convey that we've reached some pinnacle, where we're no
Right.
longer learning. We will always be students, but we're taking the time to figure it out. I think this is a good segue to kick some shout outs to say hello. We have Elsbeth Donafree. I
Hi,
got a chance
Elspeth.
to do a mandalist class with her. She's absolutely amazing and a great belly dancer. Kelly
Wait, you know
Wright.
Elsbeth?
I do.
Oh, she's on our Thursday night. We love her.
Yes, she's got the best energy. I mean, she's so
Yes, she does.
positive. I I have only known her a short period of time, but she has this, like, what I want to say, silver lining kind of energy, because I can be a little pessimistic. That she's a breath of fresh air. So Elsbeth was here with us, or it may still be, and Kelly Wright, hey
Hi,
girl,
Kelly.
and Denise has joined us as well. So
Awesome.
guys for taking the time out.
Yeah.
But the whole labels venture, what I appreciate about the vast majority of our clients is the return. The,
Yes.
the ones that take the time to actually get to know themselves, get to know us, and actually share moments, as opposed to making assumptions. Like, please ask me 1,000 questions. I'd rather that than the assumptions. And so we've almost uh, I know you at Crossroads, and over with me at Crystal Cognizance, it's always been about community.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
so
And
I
it's so
think.
rewarding when you have those clients that are so much further along than they were a year ago or 2 years ago, and you've watched them put in that effort and
Mhm.
man that struggle in a really big way and just own it. And so often people come to us and their attitude is just, oh, fix me, please fix
Right,
me.
get rid of it now.
Yeah, make it go away. When you know they're just going to go right back up out and jump into the same mud puddle again, and you're going to have to clean them up again.
Yep.
And the victim mentality that releases your accountability is one of the biggest problems I have with some of my clients. Just, and they do not want to hear that.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear that there might be some level of uh, interest that they have and things they need to do to fix their situation.
Yep.
And so when people do that, it's just really exciting.
Yes, absolutely. It's like watching children grow up and mature, not as a parent, because we're not sort of over them in that way, but I would say as a teacher,
Mm-hmm.
and in a classroom, but the classroom is life. And you see things not phasing them as much. And they're like, I had this situation, but I did this, and that. And you're like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you think of how they would have managed that differently 6 months ago, a year
Yeah,
ago.
absolutely. Yeah. The transformation process. It's beautiful and humbling.
Oh, absolutely.
I can't tell you how many clients will do something, and I'm like, damn, I remember when, and it inspires me, you
Oh,
know,
absolutely.
uh,
Yeah, for sure.
for not being so jaded.
So Nelta made this for us.
Oh, pure of heart, dumb of ass.
I think that strikes our balance there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So maybe we'll just identify as possums. One of the things with the labels also that's a struggle is not feeling comfortable identifying, you don't give yourself the title of master or guru. And we talked about this with Corby as well on one of our episodes, that, that's not something that you take on for yourself. And it's not really something I want. You want to acknowledge the fact that you didn't just get here,
Right.
that you didn't just roll off the crystal truck yesterday. But at the same time, where you want to acknowledge your years of experience, you don't want to have that arrogant flow. You want to acknowledge that you're still a student, but you don't want them to come in and say, no, I'll take the senior instead of the freshman.
Right.
So it's kind of
It's a catch-22. One of the things that you taught me as a teacher was about supporting clients through that um, I want to say inaccountability stage. I don't know if that's the word, but there is a period for everyone where it is just the fix me, help me wash my hands
mhm.
of this situation. And you know, I learned from you that sometimes that's just what you're doing.
Yeah,
You know,
it really is.
walking into all of this, I was like, yeah, only the people that want to do the work are going to reach out. And it's like, nope, that's not how that works. And I say this to my students as they're like, yeah, I'm going to have these amazing clients that just want, are ready to heal. And it's not the case. And so, you know, after working and learning from you, it's now, who am I to say what stage they should and shouldn't be at? And
So
and
true.
even coaching people from that space has been very interesting. Yet another theme, having to tell people that when they should all over themselves and they're like, well, I should be doing this and should be doing that. And I'm like, hey, you are where you are. If you're
Right.
telling me you want to be different, okay, then let's work on that. But if you come back to me and you went right back to that dude that we just cut cords from,
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is.
Yep.
And oh, well, I wasted your time and your money. No, you wasted your time and your
Right.
money. However, I still love you and we
Yes.
can, continue forward at your pace. And any healer that tells you differently, I would question that unless you have hired them as a coach. So,
Right. Right. And you are so right about that. And our job as a healer is to meet that client where they are. And
mhm,
sometimes I have seen this work several times, in fact. Sometimes that person really does just need to be fixed. Sometimes they've been struggling for so long that they just need a good clean out and a reset button and a lot of intention.
yeah,
And so you clean them out and then you talk to them about, look, we can do this, this, and this, and this. But I'm going to tell you, if you do this same stuff, you're going to end up in the same place again. And that's just job security for me.
yeah,
So you're going to be on my couch again if you go back to that guy that we cut cords with. So what you have to do now, I'm going to give you the script. We're going to get you cleaned out. We're going to cut the cords. We're going to make a list of what you want in a relationship. But first, we're going to have you not be in a relationship for at least 3 months
yeah,
and give them that clean out time. And sometimes just that reset button is enough. They really do just need us to fix them.
yep,
And
yep.
we don't know. We really don't know. We can become jaded, which is very common, and
Hmm.
start to imagine that we know.
Yeah.
But it's just a matter of holding that space for them, holding the field, and really trying to guide them in that good direction that's going to work.
And that's applicable more to just this field of work. So it's one of the things that I really want to thank you for, because it brought me back home at times when I'm like, I don't know, we keep talking about the same thing 5 or 6 times, and now being able to hold a safer space
Right.
for that. And again, this is applicable to family. It's applicable, and it should be applicable to family, because they're the hardest. You see
Yeah,
them every day. It's hard to watch family members drown.
It
is how
is.
I put it. But if they're drowning and the floaty or the buoy that you threw them is right here, eventually they'll splash and
Yeah.
they'll get to it.
Yep.
But you
Or you
know
can just kick it at them.
boop.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Very,
they'll go, what
very.
was that?
Yep.
And in 2 months they'll go, oh, that's what that was.
And sometimes it's that 15th or 20th time that you tell them something that it really clicks and
Yep.
finally they see it. And one of the things that really stuck with me, I heard years ago, I wish I could remember who said it. It wasn't Rumi, but it was a very enlightened soul that was before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And it's
Yeah,
really about, it doesn't matter how highfalutin you are, how high vibing you are, what an amazing healer you are, you still got to do the work.
oh man. People are like, yeah, you look like you have it so together. And I'm like, good.
Yeah,
Some
the
real good
illusion is
I put
complete.
on.
Yeah,
Because
that's
the
very
work is
true.
still getting done, still get dirty. I mean, I came to you 2 weeks ago for the nastiest limpia I think I've ever had.
That was ugly. But that's why healers have to have healers.
Absolutely.
And we have to have healers that are willing to call us on our bullshit. We have to have healers that can look at us on a Zoom conference and say, you look dusty. We gotta get you cleaned up.
Absolutely.
Because we can't see that. We can feel that, but we can't always be the one to extract that information. So
Yeah.
it's just so essential that those energetic healers have somebody or many somebodies
Yep.
that they can go to connect with and have that networking.
I like that you said many somebodies. I've found on my own journey that I do reach a threshold with people and then it's on to the next. And it's not, I always hope that the parting is not negative and the vast majority have not been, but they're working just as much as we are. And I think that you start to feel like wait a minute, this session is starting to become a bit of either I'm not seeing the changes that I was seeing before, or
Mm-hmm.
something has changed to where it's now like, okay, I may need a different person. Now we do have an audience question from Denise, and it pretends it goes with what we were talking about, helping others. And she said, um, so how many times of doing the same, I'm going to edit this, I think. How many times of doing the same thing over and over and over before you say, I can't help you?
For me, that's an energetic place.
Mhm.
When you are pouring into a client, and one of the first things we learn as healers is don't pour your own energy.
Yep.
Be present, be engaged, don't be shielded, be completely open, but pour divine love and divine energy towards this client. But when it's funneling from you to the client, you can feel where it's going. And if you're starting to, at first, on any client that's in trouble or having some kind of trauma, you feel that just going into this empty well, and eventually you begin to feel it catch. And then you begin to feel it rise. And this might be over one session, 45 minutes into it, or it might be over 40 sessions, but you begin to feel that it's doing something, it's rising, it's having an effect. If you are continuing to feel that it's just going into the pit, or you're feeling like it's bouncing back, it's not getting in, um, that's when I will be the one to say, I think maybe I'm not the healer to help you, but let me send energy towards you finding that person. And it's a real, what's a fallacy that's out there, that because you're a healer, you're obligated to help everybody.
Nope.
And it's a
Don't agree.
privilege when one of us says, yes, I'll work with you and we'll see how this goes. But it doesn't matter if it's your best friend or your mom or somebody you've never met. If you're working and working and working and you're starting to have that feeling, that energetic feeling that this energy isn't going anywhere, it's not doing anything, that's when we pull back. And that might be a one session, or it might be several sessions. That's how I do it. How do you do it, Dahlia?
So I think for me, this is a twofold scenario. I try not to go into this. This probably sounds a little strange, but I go into the session not assuming that I can help them.
Interesting.
I assume that whatever it needs to happen will, and that it will be useful, but not that I am the last stop of help.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps me manage my expectations, because the moment that I start thinking about how I can help them, I start trying to pull in, well, I need this, I need
Mm-hmm.
that to support them, when really I just need to be the vessel. And it allows more to come through.
I need to learn that from you. I'm going to start doing that because when I approach clients, it's more like John Constantine, with the cigarette in the mouth, like, all right, what do we got?
Well, and I definitely think there's space for that, right? Like, I think I still engage with that, but I just, because I can be so literal about what help looks like, if I'm instantaneously like, okay, I'm going to help you, then I feel like I've gotten in the way of the divine.
I
Um,
love that. You've really taught me something today because I think that's a missing piece I needed to be
oh,
able to have a different approach to what I'm doing because it's felt like a heavy load of anybody who makes it through my brick dust, gets past Eric, my pit bull, and can find my office.
I need a pit
I
bull.
kind of feel like, all right, what do we got? What do you need? Let's get it up. If and I mean, get it up in the most, turgid of terms, as far as, yeah, we got to bring some big DE to or BDE to fix this
Right.
situation because I got to fix it no matter what. But it's so gracious what you're saying of, okay, well, let's talk about this and see if I'm in a place to help you, if I'm the one that needs to be your vessel. So
Yeah.
that's beautiful. I love that.
Well, thank you. The second fold of this question to me is boundaries. So I think it's not a question of at what point, because there's not a how many times. It can't be 15 or 20 or 30, but instead, make sure you are severing that help, that assistance, at some point. So you've agreed to work with them for an hour, you've agreed to drive your family member somewhere. When that drive is over, cut that shit off.
I
you
like
know
that. That's
and
good.
then you will have reserves for the next moment that you need to assist them. I have a conversation with my clients a lot about stopping their help early, because I have a lot of overgivers in my practice. So, first go ahead and go through your mind of everything that you would do for that person, and then cut off at half.
Oh, that's really good.
And once you've done half, that that person will either meet you the other half of the way, or they'll ask you to do all of it. And if they ask you to do all of it, you couldn't help them. So,
That's really good. And
um,
that's something that's very common with my clients as well. And also people in my family, my some of my children, and this is one thing I really tried to give to my children is the knowledge that if you extend yourself and agree to do something that you're going to resent later,
mhm,
you've just contaminated the relationship.
yep,
And so it's much kinder to say no and pull back than to overgive and resent it later
yep.
because yeah. And so I like what you're talking about giving halfway. That I needed to hear that too.
No,
So thank you.
well, it's something I say to myself all the time. I had a client once that she lived in my neighborhood and worked in the shopping center upstairs from me. And she comes to me and she's like, man, I'm having car troubles and just getting to work. And in my mind, I was like, we could ride together to work, and we could, I could drop her off, drop her home, it'd be this thing. And a very loud voice inside of me said, don't say anything.
Shut up.
Right. And so at that point, I was like, yeah, that's really terrible. And so they said, you know what? Wait until the next session. And I said, okay, that's fine. And so rather than saying no, internally it was a not right now. And that's also something that I tell my overgiving clients is, if you cannot say no And we know, like in the healing work, the pendulum swings in one direction or another. You've had a whole life to say yes, and then you do the healing and you want to say no to everything, and then you find middle. So if you cannot say no, just not right now. Well, I waited until the next session. She had a car. She
Oh,
had a
that's
car by the
great.
next session. An aunt gave it to her and blah, blah, blah. And I was like,
Wow.
man, I almost trapped myself into giving this
Yeah.
person rides. And oh, and then I probably would have resented it because at the point that I couldn't give them a ride, it would have been an issue.
Sure,
So
sure. And saying no, especially somebody who's not accustomed to saying no, it's kind of like killing a man because the first time is the hardest,
yeah.
and then you suddenly turn into a toddler because you didn't have horrible reactions. And so you're like, no, 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 no. And you really get down with your no jam, just
Yeah.
no,
Right. What
no,
is
I'm
this
not going to do this.
feeling?
Yeah. And I always loved, I gotta preface this by saying, for my own personal reasons, I am not a huge fan of Oprah's, but she said something one time that really just, I've used it so many times in teaching. And she said that if she is asked to do something that she just does not want to do, that her answer is always, I'm going to need to pray about that. And then the next day she comes back and says, Jesus said no.
And yet another thing we can use in this practice, right? Like, hey, I had a download and it's just
My
not
spirit guides are telling me,
gonna
which is usually true, because we do get the klaxons in our head. Now, I'm a problem
Absolutely.
solver and I have 6 adult kids, and I completely did not provide my kids with adequate adulting measures, because if there was a problem, I fixed it. And a lot of them grew up without problem solving skills because I just didn't want them to suffer like I did. I didn't want them to struggle like I did. And so a lot of times if there's a problem, I would just fix it. So some of them grew up having challenges, knowing how to fix certain things. And I do the same with Eric. Oh, don't worry, honey, I'll take care of that. I do it with my clients. And this is something new for me, to have to not be the one to fix it and to just stand back and see what happens. It's really tough because and again, I hate to ride that old sun sign, but as Virgos, we tend to really believe that they're just going to screw it up. We might as well do it right the first time.
Move.
Yeah, get out of my way. And
Absolutely.
yeah, but then there are people who will take advantage of that.
Absolutely. In the
And
same sentence.
in your case, because you didn't say that, you did listen to your spirit guides, she became very independent about
Yes.
her situation.
What I think is interesting, and I'll sort of leave this here because we're winding down. Having conversations with people about their parents wounding them in positive ways. To your point of always, serving your children, it's an innate thing. And I can't tell you how many conversations I've had where I'm like, okay, well, I'm picking up something about, your dad, and they're like, man, I had a great relationship with my dad. But then the conversation is that dad did everything, provided
Mhm.
everything, was the greatest human being on the planet. And now they're trying to measure up to that, and it's not their path to do that.
Right,
And so it doesn't make dad a bad person, just like you serving your children didn't make you a bad mother,
right.
but it does create a result. And is the result, you know, aligned or misaligned with their journey? It's a hard concept for people to grasp onto.
Well, and you can be a great, wonderful, good person and still be a negative influence.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's hard to accept sometimes. And we don't ever want to believe that we're a negative influence on our kids. And the extent of my parents helping me out, like I said, I got married when I was 16. I mean, when I moved out of the house, their gift to me was a suitcase,
Wow.
and literally that was it. Our time here is obviously finished.
Yeah.
And and so I never wanted that for my kids. So I always tried to be present. I always tried to be there, always tried to be helpful. And you talk about that pendulum. I booted that pendulum all the way around the clock. So
Right. The word right doesn't exist. We just try our best.
I think we always find out in time exactly how we screwed up our kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when we had no intention of doing so. And it just takes time. It'll come out.
And you hope to live long enough to have the conversations, and I don't think that there's a timing issue, but to say, you know, I you know mommy was going through these certain things or that certain things. I'm
Hmm.
certainly grateful for conscious parenting that has become more acceptable for
Hmm.
me to, say to my mom as she's being the best grandmother that she can be, like, hey, you know what, these kids are going to cry. And for me to be able to say to them, you know what, mommy's not in a real positive place right now. So I'm going to need a little bit more patience. I'm going to need a little bit more space, like to come humbly to my kids
Hmm.
and ask them for patience for me has been absolutely transformational. And being able to serve them that way in adulthood, I think that's where we really create the healing, is the conversations after the fact. But there is no preliminary. No, you will do something, and it will have an impact.
It will.
And it will not be the impact you intended.
Nope. Well, Dahlia, this has been wonderful. I don't think we ever have to worry about dead air or we're going to have an hour and nothing to talk about. Because every time that I spend time with you and share screen with you, whether it's just our private discussions or something broadcast, I always love the banter that we have and the interchanges that just lock together. So this has been a real joy for me.
This has been a joy for me too, and I feel like I learned so much. I want to say sitting at your feet, but I feel like sitting on the couch side by side is
Right.
is appropriate too. So,
And I love that these
absolutely.
people can have dinner with us, so to speak.
Yes,
And
and thank you all for everybody who participated. Denise, Elsbeth, Michelle, Kelly, thank you all for joining us tonight. I'm sure we're gonna have more folks joining in, and your comments have been lovely. So keep them coming, and we'll see you next week.
see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.